Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Good evening. You're watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. Rains of varying intensity fall in some governorates of the Sultanate as there are chances to continue up to tomorrow. Housing units are being completed prior to be handed out to citizens in the Niaba of Hasik of the wilayas of Sadah. And Afghans will go to the polls tomorrow to elect a successor to President Hamid Karzai. Thank you for joining us. Those were the headlines, and now the news in details. Qumaira station in the governorate of Baremi has recorded the highest level of rainfall of more than 15 millimeters. Meanwhile, the governorate of Masqat, Al-Dhahira, witnessed light to moderate rains, causing some wadis to overflow. Elsewhere, Wilaya of Awabi, as well as Wilaya of Barkia in South Al-Batina, witnessed moderate to heavy rains, causing wadis to overflow. Wilaya of Liwa in North Al-Batina witnessed moderate to heavy rains, causing wadis to overflow. In the governorate of Ad-Dakhiliya, the Wilaya of Bahla had light to moderate to heavy rain this afternoon, as well as the Niaba of Jabal Al-Akhdar received moderate to heavy rains, causing some tributaries to overflow. It is expected that the present rainy condition will continue until tomorrow, Saturday. With the aim to get acquainted to work progress in various municipal projects in the wilaya of Sadah, Shlim and Halaniyat Island, His Excellency Sheikh Salim bin Aufit Al-Shamfari paid a field visit to these wilayas. 173 houses of 2 floors were constructed in the Niaba of Hasik, and all the necessary services are available in addition to new roads in the wilaya of Sadah and its Niabas. The Niaba of Ashwaimiyah enjoyed many vital projects, namely a public park, roads, lighting and others. The municipality is keen to serve the society and implement development projects that facilitate the lifestyle of the citizens. 210 people who joined computer secretarial and office management courses were honored in the Omani Women's Association in the wilaya of Shlim and Halaniyat Islands. The courses aimed at providing the trainees with skills necessary for administrative activities, so to serve public and private entities in the wilaya. It was presided over by His Excellency Sheikh Bakhit bin Salim Al-Mashani, Wali of Shlim and Halaniyat Islands. At the end of weekly trading, Muscat security market witnessed purchases on financial sector shares caused to close the general index by receding of more than 100 points, while the trading volume exceeded 50 million Omani riyals. It is expected that companies' results with affect the performance of Muscat securities market with the return of some investments in its shares, which may support the movement of shares trading in Muscat security market. You're watching the Sultanate of Oman television, and still to come in our news bulletin. In Japan, the spring brings hay fever misery during the cherry blossom season. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. Dozens of Palestinians clashed with Israeli troops in West Bank today as they protested Israel's decision not to free Palestinian prisoners as part of faltering peace talks. Protesters hurled stones at Israeli troops who responded with tear gas. At least one protester was seen to be injured as others carried him to an ambulance before being driven off for care. Israel abruptly called off the release of Palestinian prisoners yesterday, sending U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry's troubled Middle East peace efforts further into a tailspin. The Israeli announcement made a renewed Palestinian push for membership in the United Nations agencies. It deepened the crisis in the US-led peace talks and made Kerry's goal of extending negotiations past a late April date line a more distant possibility. Afghanistan goes to the polls tomorrow with 3 contenders dominating the 8-man race to succeed President Hamid Karzai. More details in the following report.
An operation by Afghan troops to clear insurgents from the Sangin Valley in Helmand province ahead of Afghanistan's presidential election. The Taliban has stepped up attacks in recent weeks, their stated aim to derail the vote, which will determine President Hamid Karzai's successor. But whoever comes out on top, for most people, there's one overriding priority.
All we want is peace. We don't want our kids to be killed anywhere in Afghanistan, by bullets, by bombardment of NATO forces, by suicide attacks, or by any other means.
Violence was one of the key reasons behind the low turnout at the last election in 2009. Only a third of voters cast their ballots. But even if more people go to the polls this time, some observers say the process lacks democratic legitimacy.
This is still a society where the local strongmen play an important role, whether it's a warlord in the north, whether it's a tribal strongman in the south. Whoever has the guns and controls an individual village will probably sway the outcome in that area.
There are 3 front-runners in the presidential race in which ethnic loyalties will likely play a decisive role. Abdullah's support is in the Tajik areas. The former foreign minister came second to Karzai in 2009, but withdrew from the second round to protest against alleged vote fraud. Ashraf Ghani is a Pashtun, the largest ethnic group. The academic also worked with the World Bank for 11 years. Meanwhile, Zalmay Razul is widely seen as the outgoing president's favoured candidate, a doctor and the only one of the 3 to choose a woman as a running mate, Habiba Sarubi, current governor of Bamiyan province.
The 2 who don't win, the way they react, the way they respond, will, I think, decide whether this election contributes to stability or not.
The winning candidate will have a difficult task before him, taking the helm as the final NATO troops head home. And trying to provide security won't be the new president's only challenge. He'll also need to strengthen an economy currently reliant on declining aid money.
A fine arts exhibition was held at Safir Mall in the Wilaya of Sohar. 10 artists from Buraymi, Sohar and Sahama introduced their artistic portraits in the exhibition. They aim to shed light on the fine arts field so as to enhance cultural and artistic movement in the society. During the 5-day event, they hope to attract visitors and those interested in this field as they show their talents in fine arts. Spring in Japan brings explosions of pink and white cherry blossoms that provide a beautiful backdrop for picnics across the country. But it also signals the start of the hay fever season. Here is a report.
For many, these cherry blossoms are a symbol of Japanese springtime. But for others, they mean it's time to get out the surgical masks. That's because more than 1 in 5 people in Japan suffers from an allergy to pollen.
I only use masks that fit me perfectly, and I wear special glasses.
Masks, goggles, nasal creams and even air purifiers. Japanese manufacturers are at the forefront of the fight against hay fever. And despite appearances, this battery-powered headgear isn't designed for biochemical warfare, but for allergies, and it sells by the thousands.
It is half a joke, of course, but it really works. So why not wear it if it can end the kind of hay fever that makes you really suffer?
The source of much of the pollen are these cedar trees, which were planted in vast quantities after World War II. Now Tokyo is replacing 20,000 hectares of the trees around the capital with a variety that produces less pollen. But for this professor, there's a better solution. Fight pollen with pollen.
There's a new immunotherapy treatment that consists of sublingual pollen-based drops. This can ease the body into getting used to cedar, and then symptoms will fade.
This method could cure around 30% of patients. The others, though, will just have to make do, while the anti-allergy industry reaps the benefits of a market that is estimated to be worth around €1.5 billion every year.
And now for the general weather forecast. Cloudy to partly cloudy skies will prevail over the governorate of Musandam, North Al-Batina, Al-Buraymi and Al-Dhahira, with chances of rainfall, thunderers occasionally, and accompanied by gust winds and hails gradually will cover the governorate of South Al-Batina, Muscat Al-Dakhiliya, North and South Al-Sharqiya. The rest of the Sultanate will have clear to partly cloudy skies. Winds will be south to southeasterly light to moderate occasionally active. Seas along the coast will be moderate to rough along the southeastern coast with a maximum wave height of 3 meters, while it will be slight to moderate along the rest of the Sultanate's coast with a maximum wave height of 1.5 meters. This is the Sultanate of Oman television, and now before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. Rains of varying intensity fall in some governorates of the Sultanate as there are chances to continue up to tomorrow. Housing units are being completed prior to be handed out to citizens in the Niaba of Hasik of the Wilaya of Sadah. And Afghans will go to the polls tomorrow to elect a successor to President Hamid Karzai. With that, we come to an end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here in the studio and the newsroom, we thank you for joining us and good night.